My first guest has a history of breast cancer, and after failing her mammogram due to the finding of abnormal tissue, she took preventative steps. And I'd like you to please welcome our first guest, Melissa Hodges. Welcome to Pink Ribbon Tea Talk, Melissa. Thank you for being here to share your story and help others learn about the importance of early detection.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you being here. Please tell us what finally made you go get your questionable mammogram.
Well, a lot of these women here in the audience today are the reason that I got my mammogram, specifically Penny Bettles and Hank Boyer. Needled me and cajoled me and told me I needed to get it done. And I finally did actually make that step, got my mammogram done, and I'm very, very grateful to them that I did, because I did have some abnormal cells, and I have a really strong history of breast cancer in my family, so it was very good that I did. I'm glad they kept on me to go and do it.
You were needled and cajoled and given a hard time until you went and had your mammogram.
Absolutely, absolutely. They made my life hard until I actually picked up the phone and made the call, so I'm forever grateful to them for that.
No, I'm sure you're thankful. They did a good job of that.
Yes.
So what was your reaction to the findings?
It was more of a matter of resignation, because my family history is so strong. I have four female cousins, and of those four, three of them have been diagnosed with breast cancer, and one of them actually died from breast cancer. And my mother, my maternal grandmother, both were breast cancer survivors, and so I knew that that was coming for me sooner or later, and so it was like, okay, that moment is here, let's get something done.
So what did you decide to do, and why did you do that?
Basically, I decided to go ahead and have a double mastectomy, and I had reconstructive surgery done at the same time, because I did not want to continue on the roller coaster of doing another mammogram in 6 months or 3 months, or more MRIs, because I felt like it was pretty inevitable that I'm going to develop the disease, and I'm very fortunate in that most of my family, it's not a particularly aggressive form. So if it's caught early, there's an excellent survival rate, and I just wanted to go ahead and take that step.
So, and it's a very personal decision. Everybody will approach that differently.
Absolutely. Although Angelina Jolie did make it a lot easier to make the decision that I made, because she kind of, she was the celebrity that kind of paved the way for, other women to go ahead and make that decision and feel good about making that decision.
Excellent, and it's worked for you. So where are you today with your treatment?
Well, where I'm at today with my treatment is, basically I have no further treatment. I have no follow-up treatment. I have had the initial reconstruction done, and I'm just waiting to have my final implants put in, which will be an outpatient procedure, probably about the first part of December, or maybe a month away. So at any rate, things are going great, and no further treatment is needed for me. So I'm very fortunate. I'm very glad to have good friends that help me out.
Absolutely wonderful. That is great news. And so what would you tell our audience, what advice would you give about breast cancer?
I would just say be vigilant, take care of yourself, listen to your friends, get that mammogram done, listen to your friends, listen to your family, do it for them. If you won't do it for yourself, do it for them, because they deserve to have you around for a good long time.
Wonderful. So, would you say your roles have reversed now, and you're more likely to be the one giving the hard time to people who may be hesitant?
I think so. I hope so.
Excellent. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so very much for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it, please, for Melissa.
Thank you.
We're going to invite Melissa to stay here. Our next guest is Melissa's mother. She was diagnosed with cancer and has beat it not just once, but twice. Please welcome Gayla Rose. Hello, thank you for being here.
Hello. Good job.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, now it's your turn.
Okay.
Very exciting.
Yes.
And Gail just got the questions that we're going to ask you today, I understand.
Yes.
So
this is very impromptu. Please understand. Yes.
We're going to have fun and go off the cuff here, and we won't be taking questions from the audience because they had to be submitted in advance. I'm just kidding.
Whatever. We're prepared.
We're prepared. So Gail, please tell me when and how your cancer was detected.
My cancer was detected 20 years ago. I had just taken a new job at Salina Regional Health Center. It was actually Asbury Hospital at the time. I had not been in the work world for some time, and I thought, I'd better just be sure that I'm healthy enough to take on this large new responsibility. So it was really self-motivated, and of course I'm around people who are talking about the need for mammograms and early detection, and that played a role. But I also felt an obligation to my job, myself, as I undertook something new and large, and that motivated me. I thought, if I'm working at the hospital, I need to be in good health myself. I had not had a mammogram for years in advance of that, so it was a new job.
And this was 20 years ago.
This was 20 years ago.
And I don't know, mammograms then obviously have come a long way in 20 years. Is that, they're making forward progress?
That is true.
So, but 20 years ago, mammogram is how you were detecting your cancer?
That is correct. It was detected, and a simple lumpectomy followed by radiation took care of that problem. So I got out of it very easily.
So what was your reaction when you first found out you had cancer 20 years ago?
Well, first of all, I'm surprised. If there was an illness or within my family that was a concern, it would have been diabetes. My father and all 5 of his siblings died of diabetes or complications. So that was the disease that I was particularly on the lookout for. Yes, and I think there's an element of denial that comes in. You know, it can be. I feel so good. I have so much energy. I can't have cancer. I can't be sick. So those were, yeah. There was surprise and denial. Not me, no. I'm healthy. And I was, after I had the surgery, of course.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And the treatment.
So, and then after all of this, you had a relapse and battled cancer a second time. Tell us about that.
I did. The first was 20 years ago. The second was 13 years ago. So 7 years after the first, had, again, problems found in the other breast, again, with a mammogram and a lumpectomy to verify. And with that second one, I made a different decision. I had a mastectomy. Why I didn't think and just have a double mastectomy and just have it all over, I didn't. But that was my decision with the second one, because I thought, I don't want this rolling around every 7 years, or when, you know, I just like to have it taken care of. So that was my decision the second time.
Okay, and where are you at today with your treatment?
And with my treatment today, I'm fine. It's just a matter of again, I still do need examination of the breast that has not had the mastectomy, but I'm in good health, feel great. So glad that I was able to take early action and prevent what has just been a very difficult disease for the women members of our family. So.
Absolutely, and now I'm sure all the women in the family are on top of it and don't need to be cajoled nearly as much as Melissa did to get to go in and
There's
get
that
checked.
element of denial that runs through our family, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, if you had a moment, and you do right now, to tell our audience here listening with us and on TV, what advice would you give them about breast cancer?
Well, again, the message that you're promoting here today, early detection, that is the key. If we can catch it when it's a stage 1 instead of advanced to a stage 4, you know, you're going to come out of it so much better. Your options are much, the treatment is much easier on you. So early detection is so important. So keep promoting that message, girls. That is so important. And I think the other thing that I bring out of it and would say to others, when I talked to a friend last night who wanted to know what I had on my schedule today, and it's like, well, this, and then there was the breast cancer survivors tea, and she said, oh, are you a breast cancer survivor? And I said, yes, twice. And she said, well, your emphasis is definitely on the survivor rather than on the cancer part of it. And I think that, you know, once you've had good care and good treatment, if you look toward the survivor part of it, that really makes a big difference in your view of it. And yes, I'm a survivor, and I'm very pleased.
That's a great message. Emphasis on survivor. That's what it's all about. I want to thank a nice round of applause for all of our survivors here in the room with us today.
Yeah.
Survivors everywhere. That's what this is all about. It's early detection exams, mammograms as needed, and when you're supposed to have those, and then detect it early. So, well, thank you. You're both a testament to early detection, and thank you for being here, for sharing your stories. This is all about helping others realize that's what it's all about. Welcome back to Pink Ribbon Tea Talk. Thank you again for joining us for these informative interviews, really spreading the message and helping get the word out about the importance of early detection. My next guest's mother was diagnosed with cancer, and after DNA testing, found the cancer gene. She took preventative measures. Please welcome Amber Dennett. Thank you very much. Welcome to Pink Ribbon Tea Talk, and thank you for being here with us to share your story and help spread the word about the importance of early prevention.
I'm happy to be a part of it.
Well, your experience with breast cancer was different than those that we've talked about so far today. Your mother was diagnosed with cancer, and then things were a little bit different. So tell us about that.
Well, I feel like my story with cancer began a couple generations ago. My grandmother found out that she had cancer the same appointment she found out she was pregnant with my mom.
Oh.
And knowing what we know now of the BRCA1 gene mutation, we realize that it was probably ovarian cancer that she was diagnosed with at that time. So my mother's entire childhood was spent preparing for her mother's eventual death, because this was in 1953 when she was diagnosed. And then she was diagnosed with breast cancer. My grandmother was 42 when she was diagnosed with breast cancer on top of the ovarian cancer. And now what we know now, there's a very strong relationship between the two if you have this BRCA gene mutation that we do. So then my grandmother passed away at the age of 44 when my mom was 14 years old. And then my mother was diagnosed when she was 48. And she always felt like it was inevitable. I know, listening to Melissa talk earlier, it was a matter of when. And we were very fortunate in that when she was being treated, it was when knowledge of the BRCA gene mutation was coming forward, and she was asked to be part of a clinical study, to see whether, given her strong family history, she had the BRCA mutation, and it turns out she did. So then the next step was for my sister and I to be checked to see if we have that mutation, because if you have the mutation, then your children have a 50% chance of having the mutation themselves. My brothers also need to be checked. They have not done that so far, because, as we all know, men can get breast cancer as
Absolutely.
well. And the BRCA mutation heightens risk significantly for breast cancer, but also all sorts of other cancers for men and women. But so we had that testing done, and I frankly was kind of relieved when I found out that I did have the mutation, because I think I was in a position that I don't think I would have believed it if I hadn't.
Right.
And so knowing I had the mutation, I was able to go ahead and take preventative measures. I had 3 very young children. My youngest was a baby when we found this out, and knowing how my mother's experience with her mother, formed her, I didn't want, obviously, my children to have that same experience. And so I immediately scheduled an appointment with a surgeon, and I had a hysterectomy and double mastectomy and reconstructive surgery to eliminate as much risk as I could, because with the BRCA mutation, you have up to about 80 to 85% chance of breast cancer.
Okay.
About 60% chance of ovarian cancer, which frankly, that scared me a lot, because with breast cancer, you can have breast exams and hopefully find the tumor before it's too progressed, but ovarian cancer is very difficult to do. And in fact, my mother's cancer, when she was diagnosed, she had had a mammogram just a few months before, and they thought they saw some irregularities, and so they did another mammogram and came back saying it was fine. And a couple of months later, my mom found a quarter-sized tumor under her arm, and by the time she got into the doctor, a couple days later, they diagnosed her with stage 3 breast cancer. And her cancer, which is very common for the BRCA mutation, was triple negative, which is harder to treat. It doesn't respond to the hormone treatments that a lot of the other breast cancers respond to. Wow. It does respond well to chemotherapy if it's caught early enough. And fortunately, my mom responded well to chemotherapy and has been a survivor now for going on 12 years.
So the triple negative, is that more of an aggressive and fast-moving cancer? To go
It is.
from not finding it to finding it and having it be in stage 3 so quickly?
Yeah, it's extremely aggressive, and it has a much higher likelihood of recurrence.
Did that play a factor in your decisions? Your treatment course?
Absolutely, yeah.
The type of cancer in the history of the family?
Yeah, it felt like a no-brainer. A lot of people asked me when I decided to have the surgeries, they couldn't believe I made that decision and thought that was a very brave decision. Honestly, it felt like the only decision for me to make. But I was in a position where I was 34 at the time. I knew my family was complete. I had 3 beautiful children, and I was in a position where I could make that decision for myself. But my sister was 10 years younger than me, and we went through the testing at the same time. And because she was 10 years younger, she wasn't at the same place in life that I was, and wanted to grow her family and was not ready to make those decisions. So she has, and she continues to have, mammograms and MRIs staggered every 6 months.
Okay. And
keep on top of it.
tested and found to have the gene, of course, and then
the same
had just
time.
undergone a different treatment route than you
Right. She waited a number of years before having a hysterectomy, and now she continues to monitor. She knows that she'll eventually have the mastectomy, but just hasn't.
Keeping a real close eye on things.
Right. She has to be very on top of it. And what's funny, when we first found out that we had the mutation, things have changed so much between now and then. When we did it, we were told we had to do it anonymously, because we were told we would never qualify for life or health insurance again. So we actually, Hannah and I both tested under our dogs' names.
Oh, there you go.
So that we could, so I was Moxie and she was Diamond. And
Very nice. And now you can tell them that now. It's okay.
Yeah,
Statute of limitations, I see.
Because we were told, do not tell your doctor, because they'll be forced to put it in your medical records and you won't ever be able to get health insurance again. So things have changed. I know there are a lot of concerns about the Affordable Care Act, and there are some issues with it, but it's been a godsend for us, because having this pre-existing condition, we can have health insurance, which at the time we really didn't think we would ever be able to have it again.
So today, is there ongoing treatment for you? Where are you with your treatment? Are you completely finished?
I am completely finished in that my surgeries are complete. That was a long road, which is a whole nother story, but my surgeries are complete. I do still have to be cognizant, because I'm at a heightened risk for all sorts of cancers. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of cancer survivors that I know, every ache and pain, your immediate fear is that the cancer has reoccurred or has occurred in another part of your body. So while I am so thankful that my risk of breast cancer is now that I don't have any actual my breast cancer risk is actually about the same risk as the general public, because you can still have cells. And that was part of the reason why my surgeries were so complex, because I initially had a bilateral mastectomy and found out down the road that they hadn't gotten all of the tissue, so I had to go through it again.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's when it's really, really important for women and men to be their own best advocates and really know what you're getting into and demand the treatment that you deserve, because that was a lot to go through to find out that
Oh, absolutely.
you still have exactly 80 to 85% chance of getting breast cancer because it was still there. So
Wow, huge moving forward and knowing and having the DNA test and having the
Yeah.
information.
yeah.
So, well, we've got this opportunity to share anything you'd like with our audience at home, anything you'd like to share advice-wise about breast cancer.
I just think that I am so glad that we live in an age where we have things like this, that we can talk about it. We can talk about breast cancer and advocate for ourselves. You know, when my grandmother died of breast cancer, it was not talked about. You know, you had to whisper. In fact, one of my neighbors, who is a little older, came over when she found out that I had breast cancer, that I was having these surgeries, and you know, we had to whisper about it because it was just not talked about in that generation. So it was a matter of shame, and that's not what it is anymore. And I talk to younger people today who have no idea why we really advocate for breast cancer awareness, because they have no memory of when it was a shameful thing. So I think we're very fortunate, and I think that we need to just keep the discussions going. So I'm happy to be a part of that.
Well, we appreciate you being here and sharing your story and getting the word out. And there's lots of ways to achieve the early detection that needs to be done. And we've got a couple ways here with us today, but just make sure you think that follow up with your doctor and spread the word. Talk about breast cancer and early detection and all the methods we
Absolutely.
have at our disposal to detect it.
Be aware of your family history and advocate.
For our final segment, our next guest was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2009 and is cancer-free today. Please welcome Hank Boyer. Welcome to Pink Ribbon Tea Talk. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And more importantly, thank you for helping make all of this happen. We spent some time talking about this and planning it, and it's been lots of fun so far, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to have even more fun now.
Are we?
Of course we will. This is the last segment of the day.
Okay,
Now we get to
let's
cut
go
I've
for
got
it.
stuff to throw at you down here.
Don't be throwing pillows at me.
All right, they're your pillows, so the pillows look fabulous. Hank brought those. Did you get those from home?
I did.
Okay, good. They look great. We had
Where else would I get pillows?
Set design. Well, you could go buy pillows somewhere.
Nah.
They sell them. Do any of our sponsors sell pillows? No.
No.
So we can't get pillows. We can't mention anybody anywhere you can buy pillows because our sponsors don't sell them. You could get cupcakes from Sugar Peas Cupcakery and put them on the couch.
That would be kind of
It would be
messy.
I bet they could do it without the frosting. It'd be squishy. I would eat my way through
now, wait, watch what you're saying. Watch what you're doing there.
I would eat my way through a cupcakes or through a pillow-sized cupcake.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you
You
could.
know I could do that.
I know you can.
So, well, okay, we're going to get serious. We're going to talk about serious issues, early detection, and so you were doing everything right. You were performing your annual mammograms, and you had an annual mammogram, and then they called you back for more tests. Tell us about that.
I did. I had my annual mammogram, and I got this letter, not only from my doctor, but also from the radiologist, that said there was some abnormal cells, but they didn't think that it was anything. They just thought it was some calcifications. But they recommended that I be retested in 6 months instead of the usual 12 months.
Okay.
And I read it, and I looked at it, and I laid it down on my desk, and I read it about a week later and thought, I think I'm just going to throw this away. But something in the back of my mind said, no, put that in your calendar for 6 months. So I slid the letter in my calendar for 6 months, and when that 6 months rolled around, I called and made another appointment, and they said, we think we need to do further testing. And when they did the further testing, they found out that it was cancer.
Okay, and then how did you react to finding out that you had cancer then?
Well, it's kind of a shocking thing. I'm not too sure that I had just a real big reaction to it. I can remember kind of going around thinking, okay, tomorrow I'll wake up and this is just a dream. Because the state of denial.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the type of person that kind of projects and looks ahead. Shock, right? And so I was already thinking what I was going to do if it did come back malignant, and I was pretty sure before I left the hospital that day that it probably was, because I had done some reading, and just from some things, the way I had reacted and the way my body had reacted, I was pretty sure that it probably was malignant. So I had kind of stepped it through what I was going to do.
So through your research, you found out kind of signs and symptoms, and we're putting puzzle pieces together and kind of making your own predetermination, predecision on what was going on.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. And so what did you decide to do? What was your plan for treatment, and why did you decide that?
My plan from the very get-go was that I was going to have a double mastectomy and do reconstruction. And that is the avenue that I took. I did the double mastectomy, and then I did the reconstruction all at the same time. Very similar to when you talked to Melissa earlier today, and yes.
Okay, and so tell us more about your reconstruction, about that procedure, that process.
It's a process. Unfortunately, I had some complications with mine, and we don't need to go into that because we don't want scare tactics out there, because that doesn't always happen. I just happen to be unique. I think one of the things, I'm special.
Yes, you are. Uh-huh.
One of the things, though, when I went back for my very first exam a week after surgery, my surgeon came in and she says, well, I have good news and I have bad news. And of course, I had two girlfriends with me, and we're laughing and going on, you know. We said, well, okay, give us the good news. And they said, well, she said, well, you know, we found out what it was, and everything, you know, is moving along fine. And I said, well, okay, that's fine, but what's the bad news? And she said, you had it in the other breast also. And it was undiagnosed.
Wow.
And so I feel very fortunate that I went ahead and done the double mastectomy, because otherwise I had been back within 6 months to a year
Doing it again.
repeating it again. Reconstruction is a process that you go through, and you start out with your expanders, and they enlarge you a little bit each time, and then you finally get your permanent implants and go through all of that. One of the things that has been interesting about my reconstruction is I've lost my balance.
Okay.
And I didn't really realize it was because of all this until I was talking to somebody else who used to be a very avid golfer. I played golf, but I wasn't real good at it, wasn't real avid. And she said, I can't play anymore. She said, when I go to strike the ball, she said, I fall over. And I said, oh, so that's why I do things like that.
No, you lost your balance.
I lost my balance. So I have to be very, very careful.
You were out of balance.
I'm out of balance.
You're back in balance now.
No.
No, you're still
I'm still out of
adjusting.
balance.
I
Yes.
see. So that takes a while to adjust.
For me, anyhow, what happened is when they reconstructed all this and moved all those muscles around, it just doesn't work the way it used to.
Okay, I see. We're trying to keep this clean for the audience at home. Talking about moving things around and stuff. Okay, all right. So, and I've known you for years, and you're one of the most positive people that I know. And you're going through this. You had a positive outlook the whole time that everybody saw. I think. This is not one of the questions we talked about, but how tough was it for you? I mean, were you able to stay positive throughout it? Was it dark at times? Tell us about that.
There were dark times, Cain. And my minister at the time would come by and visit me because, as you know, I lost my husband just 2 years before that, and so he was kind of keeping track of his widow ladies, and he would come by, and after I was diagnosed, he would come by. And the morning that after I had found out that it had been in both sides, it wasn't just one, he called me, and he could pick up that I wasn't doing real well, and he showed up. And I don't think a sailor probably would have made his ears as blue as I did that morning. I have no idea why, but he just let me do it. There were times, that was probably the worst, but there were times when I would have to really, my faith and my friends and my family got me through it. And I would have to sit, and I would talk to God a lot, and I yelled at him, and he listened, and it was okay.
There you go.
But yeah, when I was out in public, I didn't let you see.
You're very, very strong and always fun to be around. And this is, to be here sharing your story, one of our other guests, you were part of who goaded her into being tested. So, and you're here spreading the message again for early detection. So I'm so glad you're here doing this with us today, and this is awesome. Tell me today, where are you at with your treatment?
I've passed 5 years, and I was on a drug called Femera, and after 5 years, you can go off of that drug, and I did go off of that drug in July of this year. I am still cancer-free. I will continue to see my oncologist on a yearly basis to be checked and make sure, and do the blood work to make sure that everything is still looking okay. But right now, I feel really good to be off the drug, and I feel really good because I am off the drug, the side effects from it. And, excuse me, I feel good. I'm happy. I'm ready to do, and I just keep going.
Just keep going. Excellent. Okay, we've got the big question, the one everybody wants to know. Advice. What can you tell people, our audience here today and people watching this, what can you tell them about breast cancer? What's your advice?
My advice is do your yearly exams every year. Do your exams. Do your mammograms. Have your doctor do breast exams. You never know. Sometimes they are benign. It's nothing. In my case, I had very dense tissue, and that's usually a fairly good sign of a possibility, and it was hard to find. Mine was very hard to find, but a mammogram did show it, and that's early detection works. That's all I can say.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Hank, so much for sharing your story. Hank Boyer, ladies and gentlemen. That's so nice. And my last guest today, Hank's going to stay out here with us, and I think she had to get our last guest to be here. And she was, our next guest, our final guest, was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2007. She is also still cancer-free today, so please join me in welcoming Betty Little. Hello, Betty. Betty, thank you for being here. Thank you for being on Pink Ribbon Tea Talk with us today, and for being willing to share your story and help spread the word about the importance of early detection. Tell us, if you will, how you learned that you had breast cancer.
With my yearly exam, I usually am called back for a second mammogram because I do have the dense tissue and fibrocystic condition. So when they called me back for my second mammogram, I didn't think anything about it, but then they wanted a sonogram and a biopsy, and it was cancer.
Okay,
and
what?
they wanted to maybe watch it for 6 months, but we decided no, we were going.
Moving forward with a
Yeah.
treatment plan. So how did you react when you first found out about your cancer?
Well, I remember that really good because I was in the dentist office when they called, and that's where I found out. And I was waiting on the doorstep for Don when he came out and just was in tears.
So I'm sure a shock and awe, and with any denial,
Yeah.
or did you kind of ready for it and
No, I wasn't in denial, but it was a shock.
quite a shock? So tell us about your treatment. What did you decide to do for your treatment?
Well, we decided on a double mastectomy because my surgeon had said I had it in the right breast, and eventually I would have it in the left. And with the dense tissue, it would be hard to find. So we went with the double mastectomy, and like Hank, when the pathology came back, I had 2 different types of cancer in each breast was different. One was ductal carcinoma and one was lobular.
Wow, okay.
So I was glad I did the double too.
Double mastectomy, and then you decided to forego the reconstruction. Tell us about that.
Well, my family and at my age, we decided just to get through the treatment and recover.
So decided to forego that. So if you had to do it all over again, would you still forego the reconstruction? Would you reconsider that, or do you think you made the right decision?
No, I would forego it. There are pros and cons. About the only time I think I maybe should have is when I'm shopping for nice clothes, you know.
Sure.
But I'm happy most of the time with it.
All right. So, and where are you today with your treatment moving forward?
Well, I've done my chemo. I took 6 of my 8 treatments, and I was allergic to part of the chemo.
Oh,
So
no.
I had to stop 2 treatments short. And then I was on Femera for 5 years, and I'm off of that, and I'm cancer-free, so.
Cancer-free
it
still
all
today.
worked, yes.
Absolutely wonderful. Is there anything, any advice you would share with our audience here today with us, or audience at home, about breast cancer? Anything that you want to share with everybody?
Well, I would say do your exams yearly, but if you are not strong enough to be your advocate, get somebody to do your research and help you. You've got to make the decisions, and you need somebody strong with you to help you with that.
Somebody in your corner to help do the research and
Right.
maybe prod you to move forward, and
Yeah.
and definitely someone to lean on at times, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Absolutely wonderful. Is there anything that you'd like to add, Hank? Any closing thoughts?
I'm just glad everybody came today, and I hope that those that haven't been diagnosed didn't go away with some positive thoughts and will continue to get their exams and do what they're supposed to do. And it's not something that's going to go away, and I hear of a new person almost weekly that's been diagnosed. And the scary thing is a lot of younger people are being diagnosed with it. It used to be an old, what we thought was old person's disease, and that's not necessarily true anymore. It can hit all ages and all walks of life. So be sure you look out for yourself.
Early detection, and if you know somebody that needs to be helped along, make sure to encourage them to do so. And we'll give out Hank's phone number later on after the show today. So if you need somebody to really kind of crack the whip and help them, Hank or some of her friends can help that happen. So it's important, and sharing your experience and being willing to do that is so very nice of you both, and for all of our guests here today. So early detection is the key. Once again, I want to thank our sponsors. Of course, we're here at the city today: United Radiology Group, Salina Regional Health Center, Sugar Peas Cupcakery, Jane Serene with Forever Memories, North Salina Community Development, Salina Downtown, The Market Shop, and Susan G. Komen for the Cure. I want to say thank you to all the survivors here with us today, and well done to all the survivors who are out there. So keep spreading the word. Early detection works. I'm DJ Cain. Thank you for being here with us today with Pink Ribbon Tea Talk, and thank you again to all of our guests, and to Hank and to Betty for being here with us today. I can't thank you enough for being here and sharing your story. So thank you, and thank you for watching Pink Ribbon Tea Talk.